Hi, it's Dr. Harris for Group B in MATCSC 303. Wanted to wrap up an example that I got to do in my Thursday session, but wanted to do it for you here in a brief video. And the data set that we're going to be using is the data set that's mentioned in exercise 3.5 on page 60 of your text. And so it's the MLB underscore teams data set. So let's load that in here into into our studio. So it's going to be data MLB underscore teams. And then I can view that. MLB underscore teams. Try again. And it gives us some data over several seasons of a few years ago for all the teams in the league. It tells what the team name is, what the year is, what their win-loss record was, what the attendance was, what their payroll was, and so on. So I'm going to do a little variation of what's in this exercise. I'm not going to be doing quite what they're asking for. And so what I want to do is I want to look at comparing how the two baseball teams from Ohio did over this time period. And if you're a baseball fan, you know that the Major League Baseball teams that are in Ohio are the Cincinnati Reds and the Cleveland Indians. And if we go to MLB teams, the code for Cincinnati is CIN, the code for Cleveland is CLE. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my filter command to get just the data from those two teams. And so I want to show you how to do that. So we're going to insert a chunk, and then I'm going to use the filter commands. So I'm going to call this Ohio teams, and I'm going to save that to that variable, and then MLB underscore teams. I'm going to pipe, and then I'm going to use my filter command. And so this time I want to get all the rows, all the data that's from rows that have either Cincinnati or Cleveland in them. And so the variable name, which gives us the codes for each team, is team ID. And if I want it to be in a list of things, I'm going to use percent %IN percent. So this is a way of saying I want the team ID to be among this list I'm about to provide it. And if you had some experience with R, you know that the command C basically just provides a list of things. And so C, I'm going to have quote CIN, comma, quote CLE. And so what this is going to do is it's going to select only the rows in the MLB teams data set that pertain either to data from the Cincinnati team or the Cleveland team. And so the team ID has to be in this list in order for it to be selected. And so if I run that, I don't see it, but it did something for me. And what I want to do is I want to plot how well these two teams compared to each other in terms of the number of wins that they got over these seasons that are considered. And so if we go to our data set, we see that W tells us the number of wins that the team got in that season, and year ID is the variable that's going to be for the year. And so if I want to do a plot, I'm going to pipe something out of Ohio teams, and then I'm going to set my frame. So X is going to be year ID, and Y is going to be wins. So I'm going to have years on the horizontal axis, and wins are going to be my vertical axis. So that's my frame. And then I'm going to add to that, I'm going to add two different glyphs. I'm going to do point, and I'm going to make color be determined by which team I'm talking about. So I want a different color for Cincinnati and for Cleveland. But then I'm also going to connect those points with a line. And the command we use for that is geom_line. And I'm going to have the color aesthetic be the same for it as well. So what this does is it sets the frame. We've already selected only the data that pertains to Cincinnati or Cleveland. We set the frame here. We add points where years goes on the horizontal axis, wins goes on the y-axis, and then we're going to connect them with a line, all those points with a line. So I generate that graphic. I do indeed see that over most of the period, except that I guess the very first year and they were close in 2013, but most of the time Cincinnati was somewhat better than Cleveland over this time period. So that's how I generate that. Suppose that I wanted to compare attendance instead of win total though. So I can add another chunk here, and I'm going to copy all of this over again because all I'm going to swap out is what my y coordinate is. So I'm just going to copy and paste this in here. And if we go into MLB_teams, I see that attendance is the name of the variable that measures the attendance for that year. And so I'm going to just change W to attendance. And then I graph that. And I see that by and large, Cincinnati really dominated over Cleveland in terms of attendance during this time period. This was a period where the Reds were actually having a little bit of success. And so their attendance, when you win, attendance seems to go up. So anyway, this is what I did on Thursday that I did not get to do on Friday. And so hopefully this is going to be helpful to you in terms of processing some additional examples, but also giving you seeing how we do some other things, which might be useful to us, particularly in terms of filtering.